to episode 198 of PHP Ugly. This show is sponsored by Signs. Signs, everywhere signs. Blocking out the scenery, breaking my mind. Do this, don't do that. Can't you read the sign? I'm your host, Eric Van Johnson, and with me are my fellow developers in life, John Congdon and Thomas Rideout.
I'm so confused.
Hello.
You've been confusing me all night already.
Why are we doing low energy podcasting today?
Because you guys say I scream in the mic, so I've been trying to chill. Been
I
trying
like
to
I
chill.
like it. It's a change of pace.
Tonight,
Like
on,
smooth
tonight
jazz.
on Speaking with Podcasters, we've got our.
You're listening to PHP Ugly After Dark.
I don't know how to make you bozos happy, man.
You should know by now that you
Bust my
can't.
ass.
Stop trying.
You guys just bust my every last. Well, how's everybody doing?
Oh man,
I'm
I'm
tired.
sore.
Look, are you guys able to see OBS? Look,
Yes.
Yes.
I put all this cool stuff on OBS, and I can't even use it now because you guys are little girls complaining. Watch. Let me get the music going. Watch. Get the music going. Look, check it out.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Gishu saying he can't hear you. You're so
She's
quiet.
saying, "You're so quiet, I can't hear you."
Everyone's saying that.
You should
Can
know.
you
You
hear
should
the
know better than
music, though?
try.
Because apparently the music is blasting eardrums.
Well, now it's not.
No.
Now it actually is decent.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's still not good music, but
You guys make zero sense to me. I don't know what to do with you.
We're a talking podcast. I don't understand the music in the background.
It's a pleasantry. It's a
Uh,
pleasantry, John.
well,
Like
it's supposed to be a bed, and it's supposed to be very low.
it's like going that extra mile. Yes, everything you can't hear me. Let me. I'm gonna try to do this for you guys, but I'm just saying, if I make changes here and then I'm blowing out, I'm gonna be upset.
I hate
How much
Node.
better is
I'm just
this?
gonna put that out there.
Well, you can no, don't go there yet. You could see within OBS your volumes are low. Like as you talk, you don't get anywhere near up to the yellow and red like Thomas and I do.
All right, that's valid. I'll give you that. Let me see if I can fix that here. Is that any better? That looks like
Ah,
that's better.
that's way better.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
assume that's better.
There you go.
But I,
There you
I
go.
did turn Skype down too because I thought Skype was too high. Let me turn Skype up again.
Well, then you got probably gonna have to turn OBS back down.
I'm not sure that's how that works.
Why are we
It's
doing this
delicate
live?
art.
See.
It's so funny.
All right. We're going with that. I
Are we
assume
live? Did we
everybody
start
let me know.
recording?
Way better.
Way
Thank
better.
you, Gishu.
Awesome. So before you get into Node, I am so sore right now because I took the kids bike riding the other day, and I was flying past my 4-year-old, or about to be 4-year-old next week, and he decides he's just gonna turn right and clip my back tire. Sent me right
He
off the
took you out.
took me out. I'm flying past him, and I see him starting to swerve over, but I'm in front of him. He should see me, but he kept going over, and I get closer and closer to the curb, and I'm like, no. And hindsight, I'm like, why didn't I just like pop the wheel up and land on the curb? But no, the tire hits the side of the curb. I fall off, bust my elbow, my knee, land on my keys on my hip. So I had this knot in the side of my leg where it was so painful to walk. And somehow, because he fell off his bike too, I jumped right up and went back to him. And
Yeah.
he had no scratches on him. He was fine. Bastard.
Yeah. Kids
Yeah.
that age, they're like drunk drivers. They'll cause an accident, but they won't get injured in it.
I was happy that he didn't get that hurt, obviously, but
You know,
that's been a couple days now.
there's
Still,
no denying that children are cute, but boy, are they dumb. It just, it's something that as a parent you have to accept.
Well, I accept the fact that a lot of parents are dumb too. So
Oh yeah, no doubt.
yeah.
That is
Question.
that is true. All right.
All right,
Sorry for derailing.
Thomas.
Thomas, what's wrong with
Thomas.
Node? What
I've
should I
just been
create?
dealing with it all day. We're in the process of converting over to Webpack,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm taking my gulp file and going piece by piece through it and properly webpacking things where they should be and copying and et cetera, et cetera. It's 1,700 lines.
Your goal file is 1,700 lines.
Yeah.
What in the world are you
What?
doing in there?
We have a couple dozen sites and we have JavaScript and CSS all over the place and it's
Wow.
yeah, it's not great.
Might be
So,
time to refactor some of that.
well, yeah, so that's the next step is I've got everything moved over to Webpack so that it at least works. But naturally that required like getting the latest of everything installed because the Laravel upgrades, when you follow that process, doesn't upgrade stuff like Webpack on its own. You have to sort of manually do some of these base components. And speaking of which, we're on 7.19 today. So got the whole
Not
thing
me.
done.
Not me. I'm on like 5.1, so it's all right.
Laravel 719 for
Yeah.
anybody tuning in and might not know what we're talking about.
So I get the whole thing done, and I have to switch over to another important ticket back that doesn't have Webpack, isn't fully updated. And it's like, well, hey, you got to run gulp because I've got this thing. Now gulp just doesn't want to run. It's throwing node errors
Oh,
everywhere.
on your local machine.
Yeah, because I had to roll back. So rolling back in Node is just like the worst.
No, it's an
Can't even remember the last time.
RMFR node modules and
Nope,
reinstall. You're good to go.
that was not it. So my cache was owned by root. Had to get that fixed. I had a misconfiguration in Node GYP.
That's what I call my wife too, by the way.
So the whole thing was a giant mess. I mean, I probably spent 4 hours just getting gulp to run again, and now it actually does. Oh no! I'm
I
sorry.
think you put your effort in the wrong direction there.
I lied. Primordials isn't defined. Gulp won't run still.
Oh, Thomas.
So I hate Node.
I was in JavaScript land this week too. That's been fun. I've not done any
particular-
module work. But
Any particular framework or just JavaScript in general?
just JavaScript in general. It was I'm adding functionality to an existing site and trying to do it where instead of going into this JavaScript file that's like 3,000 lines long and just forcing code into it like I normally do, I'm like, what if I try creating a module and then importing that in, which I've never done before? I was like, oh wow, this is actually working. So,
Oh man.
my JavaScript was a little more successful than Thomas's, it sounds like.
I still hate JavaScript. That's my world, though.
How's Electron going for you?
Who's that question to?
You're the one using like super hyped about. Or is Electron the one, the JavaScript writer for Laravel?
No, he like
Livewire. I'm sorry.
Livewire.
Livewire, yeah, the non JavaScript, yeah. Still picking. I tell you, after I got my head around Blade components, my what I thought my requirements for Livewire got reduced significantly because I specifically only need Livewire where I need that JavaScript-ish sort of behavior, that spa feel, of clicking a button and something happening without the page refreshing. And I just haven't gotten there yet. I just don't have that big of a need. I'm with what I've learned with Blade components. I'm definitely feeling more comfortable with Livewire because for me, Livewire was kind of an introduction to Blade components and this Livewire piece, and I was taking in a lot of information there. But now that I really have my head around the Blade component piece, I need to revisit Livewire. I actually need to do some updating to SDPHP's website. So maybe I'll look to Livewire component there just to have some experience under my belt. But yeah, man, Livewire. That's my that's my lifeline for the next year. I feel like I'm gonna do as little JavaScript as possible, which is difficult because we're very very close to opening up an application that we've been working on internally for like a select invite beta only sort of thing, and of course that's all like view stuff that we developed it under. But um, yeah, I uh, I'm I got no worries, man. I'm happy with Livewire. I'm gonna give it. I need to get it somewhere done in production so I can get you jerks off my back about it. But I'll
Hey,
get it done.
don't call me a jerk. I haven't said anything bad
I
about it.
call you jerk all the time, jerk.
Well, I am a jerk, but not about this. I mean,
Yeah.
hey, have we talked about the RFC for match expressions version 2?
Oh,
We haven't yet.
I know I've had it on my list. I'm
ooh.
excited about this. I don't know if it's passed or not.
It has
Do you guys
I think
passed.
know?
I
It
read
will
this
be in
one.
8.
Will be
What did
neat.
Oh yeah, look at that. It passed overwhelmingly, 43 to
Yeah.
2.
Where do
Wow.
you see that at?
At the very bottom of that page.
Oh, the bottom. Oh yeah. Oh
I-
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I at first I didn't quite understand it, but the more I look at it, the more I'm excited about it because I'm guilty of using switches, not as much lately as I used to be, but I still have plenty of them around, and I hate that structure because what they show here when you have a switch case statement, oftentimes you are doing just one thing within the switch, so you're almost
Mm-hmm.
using it like an if else,
Mm-hmm.
and within a switch you have your break statement, um, and just the whole structure just looks funky to me. Where with the new match expression syntax, it's very similar to a switch, but you don't have to specifically return, you don't have to break. It matches just one thing within that block of code. And as soon as it hits a match, it bails out. But just like you have with multiple case matches within a switch, you can also have multiple matches that you match one of these 5 items and then you uh, run something, and whatever it returns gets returned as the expression.
That's interesting because that does look a ton cleaner. And I was at one point a heavy user of the Switch. I don't seem to go to it as frequently anymore. But and I haven't read this. So I'm kind of I'm as you can see, kind of cruising through it right now. But there is a kind of a use case for the Switch where so the brake's not required. If you don't have the brake, it falls through. So you can have it do something in a situation and then fall through and continue to go to the next case statement
That
before
is,
it breaks
but
out.
you're right. You can, but that's also horrible. I
Yes,
mean,
I,
if
I, I
if you
agree. That's a bad
because
practice.
right, because people, you don't know if that was intentional or was it a mistake. Did
Hmm.
they just forget to put the brake in there? And how often have you forgotten to put a brake on there and did something you didn't mean to, right?
I've been guilty of that. Yeah, I've totally been
Yeah.
guilty of doing that.
Now, in their example here,
Uh,
they have a break on the default, which is stupid because that's not necessary. But beyond that, uh,
this won't let you do that, which is probably a good thing.
right?
At least that's how I'm looking at it now.
No, there's a
So
default value.
No, you
um,
can't fall
it-
through. You can't match multiple elements. You
Oh,
right.
you actually
you
can
match.
match multiple
No, you can't match one, do something, and
and
match a
then
second
fall
one
through. Yeah.
and do something else. Yes, you can match multiple things in one expression and do one thing for multiple options, but that's different.
Yeah. So this is very clean. It basically replaces switch with match, removes the case and break, and it's just boom,
And
boom, 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 boom.
it's returning something. So you don't have to say like in the
Oh,
switch
right.
that you're looking here, you're assigning the statement on each one of these, where in the match, it's statement equals something, and then whatever is the result of that match expression is what gets
Mm.
returned.
Yeah,
That
it's
looks
I don't know.
good.
It's just way
it's
cleaner.
very interesting. It's nice and clean. I'm sure someone's going to find a use case that's going to make it ugly and horrible.
Well,
Throw an if statement inside there or something.
Yeah, start
welcome to
using
PHP.
ternaries.
No,
Of
but
course.
this looks good. Match expression version 2. Nice. Good.
Yeah. All right. I can finally take that one off the board. It's been on there forever.
Throw it in the show notes for anybody listening to the podcast.
I am. I throw stupid things into the show notes that make absolutely no sense that I doubt you ever put in there. More of a reminder for me to tell stories. Uh,
I always put them in there.
I've been cleaning out the garage lately and threw just a ton of stuff up on Craigslist. And
Hmm.
I never just share my phone number because that's just stupid, right? But
Yes.
but I
Yeah.
was but I was out in the garage and I did a bunch of stuff and then I realized I'm checking my email constantly. Had anybody responding? So then I put a couple more things on. I'm like, let me just show my phone number. That way people can text me and I'll, shortcut that. Yeah, bad idea. Somebody's interested in something. I'm like, yeah, it's still available. I'm gonna send you a code from Google Verify just to make sure you're a real human. I said there's other ways to do that, like ask me more about the product, but whatever, sure. It was a Google Voice verification. He was trying to steal my phone number from me.
Impressive.
What?
If I had given him the code, he could have then ported the number to his phone, and then who knows what by the time I figured it out.
Stop it. How'd you figure it out?
Well, he said he was going to send me a 6-digit number, and he wasn't making sense and wasn't speaking clear English anyway. And then when I saw it said Google Voice verification. Do not share this with anybody. And I'm like, I responded to him. I'm like, people really fall for this? You're an evil person. No, I've been scammed before. I just want to make sure you're a real person. I'm like, leave me alone. No, I've been burned before. I just want to make. I said, stop. I just ended it. Like, leave me alone.
I had an interesting one on like Wednesday. Um, I sit idly in the Lair chat Slack, like
Mm-hmm.
I do not participate or whatever. But some guy out of nowhere just sent me a message, "Hi," and I'm like, "Hey." He's like, "I'm looking for people for my team." I'm like, "Okay, tell me about it." And he goes into this spiel about this website called Upwork.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Have you ever heard of this thing? It's amazing." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know of it." He's like, "So listen, you work for me. I can get all of these contracts on Upwork, and you do the management, and then you get 20 or 30% on it." And I'm like, "I don't understand how you think this is an enticing offer." He's like, like, well, I can't take the jobs because I'm not a U.S. citizen. So you have to be a U.S. citizen, and you manage the front of the thing. You take all the contracts, and then just send me the work, and I do the work, and then send it back out. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested. He's like, oh, come on. Like, he starts really pushing on it, and I'm like, really, I'm not interested at all. This sounds like a horrendously terrible idea that you thought up while drunk.
Or it's brilliant and you just don't see the vision.
I absolutely
Yeah.
don't see the vision. That's for sure.
You get 20%
Yeah,
to deal with the client. That's not worth it.
Yeah, that isn't even remotely worth it.
Can't even.
Especially
Give me that username, Thomas. I can probably have that person banned. I have pool over at
Probably,
Lair,
yeah,
Lair
probably.
Chat Slack. Just,
Roman?
just Slack it to me. I'll follow up on it and
It's just
see.
Roman.
Roman, just Roman.
I don't care. It didn't. It was amusing.
Yeah, my like avenues of communication have gotten out of hand, and I'm I kind of did it to myself because I'm so horrible with email and I don't look at email. But I'm a part of so many Slack channels, Discord, uh, I mean, so many different things out there. Telegram, I got people on Telegram. I never know how somebody's going to try to get in touch with me. And you know,
you haven't moved back to Signal yet, and I've been wondering where you're at.
I'm on Signal.
I know, but
Where?
you never seem to be there. That's now my avenue of communication with my wife.
Signal is? You fully
Yeah.
switched over? How do you
Yep.
like it?
I like it. I mean, it's just another chat application.
Yeah.
It moves me further away from Google. Fuck them.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking about.
Plus, after our conversation last month about security, it's
Mhm.
like having that end-to-end encryption is a nicety. I mean, I think you get the same thing with Telegram, but Signal was just more approachable. I got my wife onto it very easily. She really only used Hangouts to talk to me, and she was happy that the notification sound was different for Signal. Like she heard it more clearly than she did with the Hangouts notification. So that alone was enough to get her to switch.
You know, you can change those sounds.
Not on an iPhone. iPhone's a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I don't think you can change it per user. I think you can only change it for like Hangout. So if she has multiple people who get her through Hangout, it'll be the same
No,
sound for everybody.
no, she doesn't. Hangouts was
Oh,
just with me, but I don't even think you can change it. I looked into it for her, and it wasn't straightforward at all.
mm.
That's because it's user friendly.
You're pushing further and further away from Google, huh?
Well, yes and no to a point. I mean, they
Yeah.
still piss me off. I bought into YouTube TV when it was $35 a month. I just got an email this week that they're bumping it up to what was it, 70? Close to
Yeah.
$70 a
God.
month. But it's like, yeah, we're giving you more channels. I'm like, I don't care about these channels. You're giving me shit I don't care about. I bought into you when you were cheap, and I've dealt with these price increases, and you just keep doing it. Where does this stop? Where,
And the
when?
thing about it is, and the argument could be made because it was supposed to be one of these solutions for cable cutting, right? But the issue is with the way people get charged for internet access now in their tiers, you actually end up having to pay for something like YouTube TV or Hulu twice because if you have limits on your bandwidth, then the more you use Hulu, YouTube TV, Netflix, whatever it is, the more you use that, the more
Mhm.
bandwidth you're taking up, and you're having to pay for that bandwidth. It's crazy.
Okay, but have you guys watched Hamilton yet?
Oh
No,
yeah.
my wife and I keep wanting to, and we haven't found the time. I can't watch it without her, and vice versa. So we just haven't had the time yet.
Yeah,
It's,
I,
God,
I,
it's
wa-
so good.
I don't know if I told you, Thomas, but I actually, well, not me, my wife and I purchased season tickets to the San Diego Opera House. Was it the Opera House? Yes, San Diego Opera
Symphonies.
House. Huh?
Opera House? San Diego. I don't
San
know.
Diego Symphony,
Not
Symphony.
Symphony. It wasn't.
No,
Was
it wasn't Symphony. That's just the
Horton
thing.
Plaza.
Whatever. Stop talking. We purchased them a season ticket to all the shows at the San Diego, theater, Opera House, whatever it is,
Civic
and
Theater. The Civic Theater.
Civic Theater, yeah. And we purchased the whole season just so that they could go see Hamilton because Hamilton was coming that year. And it turned out to be one of the best like gifts we'd given them because they went and saw like every show. And they actually liked the theater and they enjoyed
It
live
was
performance and stuff.
it was
Uh,
Broadway SD, right?
yeah. So
That's sick.
my daughters have been into Hamilton for years, and they have all the alternative soundtracks. They have like soundtracks
Yeah.
that weren't in Hamilton, but written by the same people. And so yeah, I was happy to finally see it.
So you got the rotating stage and everything.
Yeah,
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 that was. I hadn't seen it. I'd heard the soundtrack maybe 100 times, but I hadn't seen it, and that stage is just unbelievably cool.
All right, no
yeah.
spoilers. I still haven't seen it. I'm going to very soon.
Worth the watch, John. Just worth the watch is
It
all I have
really
to say.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know we want to. I actually brought up. We went on a date last night, and I was like, "Hey, you want to do dinner and a movie?" Like I downloaded it to an iPad. I was going to bring it to the beach and watch it.
Mhm.
And it's just
Gross.
she wasn't. It's not very conducive to gross. I don't get it.
It's all lovey-dovey and gross.
Yeah, that's fine. But she said no because it would have been too awkward. It would have been hard to hear with the waves and all.
Oh, you're supposed to like split one pair of headphones.
Ah, is that it?
Yeah, and talk about graduating soon. Uh, it's fun. A lot of people are complaining about it because it's a little more anti-slavery than real life was. But
Oh really? Okay.
yeah,
Well,
he
I good.
he was Hamilton was not a slave owner personally, but like facilitated the purchase of slaves for some of his family members, and like
Yeah.
didn't have as much to say in reality as he does in the show about
Mhm.
slavery being bad.
But I actually learned just tonight, and I want to do more research. I haven't fully vetted this. I did very minimal. I did go outside of the article I was reading, but Lincoln didn't or fight in the Civil War to free slaves. He actually there was communication 6 months prior to him signing the Emancipation Proclamation, where he said, if I could win this war and not free a slave, I would. If I could win this war and free every slave, I would. If I could win this war and free some slaves but not all of them, I would. His whole thing was just keeping the Union together, and I was shocked by that.
I mean, his thing was keeping the Union together, but also at that
Yeah.
point,
I, I
it
I
was
don't
the
know how much
bloodiest war in history, and
I
he just wanted it to
agree with it.
end.
Yeah, exactly. I think he was just
Mm-hmm.
at some point he was just until recently the most Americans dead in a year.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
been trumped.
Not not getting into politics.
No, it was just it was fascinating to me because it's you have assumptions or you think you know about history and certain things, and then you learn
Here,
something might be a
here's
little different than you thought. It was interesting to me. That's it. I'm not saying it's
it.
true or not.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's not true. It's just there's a lot of shit that goes on, and when you go that far back in history, you're going over it with a pretty broad stroke brush. You're getting kind of the this was conceptually this is what we were trying to do. These are the people who supported it. These are the people who didn't support it, and this is the tragedy that occurred because of it. We're not going into every soldier's background detailed on how well did they really care about slaves? Did they? It's like, oh my. I mean, we can overanalyze this stuff until the cows come home. And I'm not trying to say that we don't need to hold people accountable for their true selves. I'm just saying that there's a lot of layers to a person's life, and it's a lot about intention and what were their intentions in life. Were they could have been bad people who had been spent their life trying to do something good or make something good. It's so difficult, and we're kind of I don't want to go down that road. Yeah,
just look at John Wayne Gacy. He was a clown.
Yeah, exactly. He was.
All right.
He could have been remembered for being a great clown.
No, he couldn't have, because what he did was so much worse, and the fact that he tried to use that to back me in some sort of corner, Thomas, I don't particularly appreciate it, but pull us out of this tailspin.
I'm trying. Eric, I have a question for you. You had a tweet yesterday, it looks like, where you showed
Speaking of accountability,
you showed a GitHub bar, a commit graph, and I was curious what you meant by that. What were you highlighting?
That we took on a new client that doesn't use the general public GitHub. They actually have their own GitHub instance. So all the work I'm doing for that client doesn't post to my public page. So if you look at my graph, I have a big blank.
Okay. That's your graph, not the graph of the project.
Yeah. That's my.
I thought you said we took on a new client, and then the code tanked. Like there's no commits to the project. I forgot GitHub is your personal commit history.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to point out. So yeah, I have the whole month of June. I mean, I have a couple of commits on projects we have internally. Like I said, this project we're getting ready to release, but for the most part, my work has been for this new client who doesn't have the general public GitHub. So I just thought it was funny when I look, and I actually don't look at this. I don't particularly care about it, but it just happened to come up, and I looked at it. I'm like, huh, that's weird. Why is that empty like that? And I remembered, oh yeah, that's right. They don't have GitHub, do they?
Yeah, so Michael Dorindo was asking about forking to your own account, and I thought he meant something completely different. But for that, you're not within GitHub, so you can't really fork it to your own account. You're within a separate GitHub ecosystem.
Yeah, now
technically I could.
GitHub shows activity on private repositories, but doesn't show the repository, right?
Right.
So you have a fully fleshed out profile. See, I'm on Git Vault.
Yeah.
So I don't get any credit for any of the work that I do on my public GitHub whatsoever.
Right. Well, no, you get it on your public GitHub. You don't get it in your private repos for Git Vault.
Well, I don't do anything in my public GitHub. I've got.
Which is why you have no activity out there. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. And somebody had mentioned, and I'd even talked to some people about it in the past, about writing a service that pulled in from Bitbucket, GitHub Enterprise and GitHub, and put all your stuff. That's the other thing, and that's what it boiled down to. It's like I don't think enough. I don't put enough behind those graphs to want to promote like the fact that it should be more complete, but I don't know.
Some people do, though.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. Now,
I can tell from yours you work too fucking much. Stop. Take time off. You're like
I got no
7 days a
time
week
to
in
take
there. What
off.
the hell?
No time to take off, buddy. Now I was hoping
Yeah.
you were going to talk about my other tweet that I sent out about the
I was gonna bring that one up next. It's just
yeah, and I can't even get it in OBS. I'm sorry for people watching the stream, but I'm reading the latest version or the latest edition of PHP Architect magazine, and I get to the final page, and like the whole right side of the page is blank except for
Oh.
this text that says this space is not blank. And
but
and
Eli
I
seemed
like
confused. He's like, "What? I don't know what you're talking about." Because he doesn't edit the magazine.
well, it was so funny. It's like I have OCD or something because I like saw that and I couldn't stop looking at it. Like I'm trying to read Eli's article. I'm like, yeah, okay, the falsity assumes. What does this mean exactly? This space is not. You can always find it, but it must mean something, right? Because he wouldn't have put it there if it didn't mean. Maybe it's in the article. Why is it there? It's like, did you figure it out, John? Do you know why it's there?
I'm assuming Oscar's gonna tell us when we record with him. It's gonna be,
He
I couldn't
better.
fill that page, so I just put that there, thinking it would be funny.
I,
Yeah,
I
it's
was
like the whole "this is not a pipe" thing.
And
that's kind
instead
of
of saying this this space is blank or left blank intentionally, it was like, it's not blank. There's something here. Look, I put something here.
oh man, and it still bugs me. I mean, it's still bugging me. I have like this like itch in the back of my brain. It's like, why is that there? Stop trolling me. Stop it.
I mean, I love that it's going to be so easy when he's got dementia to just screw with him.
When I get dementia, jeez, I feel like I got it today.
What else do we have?
I don't know, man.
You guys use Bootstrap?
I
Yes.
am a Tailwind guy.
Bootstrap is discontinuing jQuery support.
Oh, really?
So sweet.
Weird.
But I mean, that's shocking because they have so much stuff built on that, don't they?
I think it's mostly selectors and then the plugin stuff. But the thing is when you use jQuery plugins, you're so pigeonholed into their format for binding into jQuery, and it's a horrible syntax. I hate using it. And there's plenty of other good stuff out there right now.
Hmm. Well, I don't do Bootstrap anymore.
They're
I
just
should say I don't do it anymore. We do have projects that are still on Bootstrap, so
they're just removing their dependency on jQuery. Like they're finding ways to where they can do their work without jQuery, so that
Right.
they're probably just going vanilla JavaScript at that point, right? And they're
Yeah.
it says this shouldn't be a surprise as jQuery has been losing ground in times when frameworks such as React.js, Vue.js, and AngularJS are being used on an increasingly amount of developers across the world. So basically, they're saying everybody's using a JavaScript framework anyways. We don't need to kind of keep supporting jQuery.
right. And what I think the biggest problem is people that are using these other frameworks that don't want to use jQuery have to put jQuery on their page just to use Bootstrap. Now they
Yeah.
won't need to. That's my assumption. I don't know.
Assumption.
I do as little front end as I possibly can.
I'd love to, but I kind of somehow keep slipping into it.
What
Although
are you
I
talking
did
about? You were
read
all about the Vue.js a couple weeks ago.
That's not front end. That's still programming. CSS is
Okay.
front end.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I would.
Well, I was just complaining about all this time wasted on JavaScript, and that none of that was front end. That was all Node and NPM
Sure.
and NVM.
Hey Thomas, what happened with the job search thing? Anything you can share? Want to share?
Heard back. They were on the fence about the code that I had given them. And I asked specifically what, and they said, do you have a site where it's deployed? And I said, yeah. Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's in the README, and I sent it earlier, but I'll send it to you. So sent that over to him. So I don't know if they didn't get it running or what that was. I'm still waiting anxiously. I saw that I think they messed around with it at some point today, but the application process is always annoying and stressful.
Yes.
They probably were wondering why you're using Gulp.
I wasn't for this. I was using Webpack and all that stuff. It's all the latest tech. Okay, I say it's all the latest. It was all the latest till Wednesday. It's running on Laravel 7.18b. By the way, not semantic versioning.
Was it really 18B?
Last week it was 7.18b. Yes.
What?
Why the B?
I believe there was
It was beta.
bug.
Duh.
No, this was following A. There was a bug.
I'm looking for it.
Let me see if I can pull up the tags for it.
I'm looking for it now. Oh, let's see what we got. I don't see. I must be looking at the wrong. Oh, tags. You said those are releases. I'm not seeing 18B, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. 7.17.1 and 7.17.2.
Okay, well that's semantic version. 0.1, 0.2.
Yeah, 0, 1, and 2, all three in the same week.
That's legit.
So you were about to have us rail against the Laravel and semantic versioning for nothing.
Damn it, Thomas.
Oh my goodness, Thomas.
It's now 18 instead of 17.3 because it's next week. So you're not supposed to account for time in your semantic versioning, right? Just feature set. Whatever.
Says his theory.
John's busy talking about how much he loves DOS in Discord, so he's not following.
This whole show seems a little flat. I think we should just scrap this. But in 198 shows, we have not lost a show yet.
Yes, we have.
Pointing that. I mean, we've had some crappy shows.
No, we lost a show once.
I don't remember. We lost a show?
Oh yeah. Recordings all failed. I was missing. I think I was missing John or you.
We didn't release, or because typically worst case scenario we pull from YouTube.
That was before the YouTube stuff.
I don't remember that at all. Wow.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
You want to talk about developer surveys for a minute?
I want to talk development, PHP, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, let's talk survey, baby. Am I screaming again?
So a couple weeks ago, the Stack Overflow survey came out.
Yeah.
And then the JetBrains developer survey came out.
Oh.
And I am thoroughly convinced that none of these matter.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to share with the live viewers. I'm on. I think this is Stack. Yeah, this is Stack Overflow. What have we got here? I don't think I looked at Stack Overflows. I looked at JetBrains. Results. Is there anything here that would interest me? I'm not seeing anything. Developer profile, geographic, developer roles,
It's a horrible layout.
I'm a fan.
A pain in the ass.
Oh, wow. So apparently all of our developers in the U.S. are just like right in the middle of the country. They're not. That's weird. I think that's you, Thomas. I think you're in the epicenter.
Are you calling me fat?
I'm just saying you're in the epicenter of development world. No.
So the first thing that stands out about this stuff is that like 50% of the respondents are in India. And so when you jump down to the salary portion, the information they provide is irrelevant to anything you're looking for. Because whether or not you're in America or in India, the averaging out of the salaries is irrelevant to where you are.
This
There
weird.
was a Reddit
Their little
thread.
graphs don't fire until you get fully down there.
Yeah, there was a Reddit thread that asked people just outright, how much do you make? And Reddit being international was a wild response. Because you had a guy in New York who was making 250
What?
writing PHP.
What?
And then you had a guy in New Delhi who was making $50 a week writing PHP. And like the disparity between the two was so striking. You know, people living in Sweden versus Russia. I mean, where you live has such a huge impact on how much money you make.
I don't.
And then
I
they've
don't
got
see-
Stack
this
Overflow, I
doesn't
think,
seem
has
crazy.
the technology.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got most popular technology. JavaScript is first with 67%, and then HTML and CSS is second with 63%.
How are they? They're asking people sexual orientation.
Yeah.
Because that matters when it comes to coding.
Does it? Am I missing
No.
something?
So some companies it
It's
does.
interesting that they have straight heterosexual. What I mean, what am I missing there? Why is that two things? Is there a straight that's not heterosexual? So weird. Who would even disability status? Okay, whatever. I'm losing interest in this one.
So
Let's flip over to
most
JetBrains.
popular technologies.
Yeah, okay. I was down on technology. Yeah, most popular technology.
JavaScript is the most popular, 67%. HTML and CSS is second most popular with 63%. SQL is third with 54%. But then like you get to PHP, which is 26%. But if you write PHP, you know HTML, SQL, and JavaScript.
That holds true for all. I always say JavaScript, HTML, and SQL shouldn't be counted in these because anybody who develops just about any language uses those. Any web-based language. So.
No, not even web-based language. If you're doing Java, you're using Node tools to check your JavaScripts.
Yeah, that.
I mean, like Node, I use Node for raw PHP now.
I have to say, I'm pretty surprised by Bash.
Wait. What? What do you mean you use Node for raw PHP?
I've got NPM stuff that I have to run. I have to be aware of how to use Webpack. I have to be aware of how to use
JavaScript stuff, not PHP.
NPM. But if I'm writing pure PHP and if I'm the operator of the site, even if I don't write the JavaScript, I still have to deal with the compiling of the assets.
Not necessarily. You can tell the developer to compile the asset before they commit it. I mean, I'm just saying you have options if you really want to.
Yeah, sure. But like I said, so but then you get into like
assembly is still on here. How is assembly on there?
And 6.2% of people are using assembly. So immediately, none of this makes any sense. I completely write it off.
We compared to
Perl's got to be at least 55%.
Does the
more people are writing in assembly than are writing in Swift, which is the Apple native language.
Okay, so here's JetBrains. Let's see how it tracks with Stack. So it's JavaScript, SQL, Python, Java, and Python, Java, shell script. Yeah, this all tracks. There's assembly on here. Yep, assembly 4%. We've confirmed it from multiple sources. Everybody should start learning assembly again.
Well, yeah, again, 4% of people use assembly. 4% of people use Groovy, which I don't know what that is.
Groovy was that was the big. What was the purpose of Groovy? that was going to be the replacement for JavaScript. I mean, I'm sorry, Java. Groovy was like you're supposed to be able to write other languages in Groovy. Who was behind that? I remember Groovy too. I want to say it was like it was big in like the Novell circles. Novell, if you remember Novell. I was hanging out with Novell people back then. I think that's where, or no, maybe it was IBM. I forget. Yeah, Groovy was supposed to be the big Java replacement. Never really became anything.
So here's weirdness number 2. JetBrains, what operating system are you developing on?
Interesting. I'm scrolling through to see if I can find it. What operating system are people developing on?
60% Windows.
60%
Really?
Windows.
50% Linux?
No, obviously not really.
Well, yeah, I mean, even these numbers don't really like add up, right? 60, 50. I mean, that's like 110%.
Well, I have a Windows machine and a Linux machine, but I don't develop on the Windows machine. It's part of my development environment. But 60% Windows? That's not true. I know that's not true.
How do you know?
Linux outpaces Mac OS? I know that's not true.
That's surprising. I tell you though, again, John referenced talking to Eric Mann about Signal. Eric Mann was also talking to us about that System 76 and how happy he is with Linux. Gishu in our Discord tweeted at me how happy, I think it was Gishu, was it you that tweeted at me how happy you were with your System 76? Somebody tweeted at me about how happy they were with Linux and System 76's Pop OS. So I don't know, man.
Well, we've been talking about that. It's great and all, but System 76, not one of the top 10 computer manufacturers in the world.
It's true. Valid.
I mean, and here's the issue here is you see so many of these overlaps. 60% of people write HTML, 70% of people write JavaScript. This kind of survey is only useful if you say, pick the one that you would say you write in.
Like if you're on a desert island and you could only use...
Right, if someone says, what do you program in, you would say X. Mm-hmm. Then I could believe something that they're saying. But I've written in JavaScript, HTML, CSS, SQL, Python, Java. I've done shell scripting. I've dabbled in C++, PHP, C, C#, and Go. I played with Kotlin earlier. I had used Swift 5 years ago. I have to use Ruby for some stupid stuff. Like, I could check 10 of these boxes, and they let me. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's not a valid survey.
Yeah, I like this graph right here that we're looking at. What types of software do you develop? And they kind of break it down by, like, not industry, but they have categories. They break this down. This seems a little bit more like reasonable to consume here.
Yes. Where it says 81% of people who write websites do it in PHP.
Yeah, or that they use PHP. 34% use...
Yeah. But if you're going to do database or data storage, you're going to do it in PHP? What?
Well, 42%, yeah.
No, SQ... Oh, Jesus. See,
that's my point.
Yeah, this is people not knowing what these questions are and just checking multiple.
So if you're doing blockchain, 3% of you are using PHP, where 13% of you are using C++. So, yeah, no, this seems legit. I'm good with this.
No, 4% are using C++. Oh.
Okay.
Yep.
Augmented reality is done in C#. I mean, it's just, there's only so much data you can collect before what you've created is a word cloud that has no relevance to what the question was.
Yeah, I agree. So why'd you bring it up, man? Why'd you bring it up? That's the question. That's a real question.
Because I'm done with these surveys. We've covered them every year for 4 years now. And I'm so done with them.
I still think they're good, too.
All right, me too. I want to hear about SIF and PGP. I'll move us along. I'm done with them.
That's mine.
I agree. I know. I want to hear about
I
it.
don't know much about it. I was going to ask if you heard about it. So this came up.
I have
This
not.
came up because Keybase Zoom actually purchased Keybase, and Keybase was this supposed to be this whole making PGP and identification verification more easier to do, and something that you could depend on. So if you're
I never used it
I
though.
didn't either.
I did the whole. I used it to when it first came out, but never did anything with it.
Right.
So I'm wondering what people actually use Keybase for outside of. I know they had their own little chat application, but that seemed pointless as well.
Well, and the thing that they had that was interesting that again I didn't really use is the ability to share files. So you could create little folders on your computer where you can share. You and I could have a directory, John and Thomas and I could have a directory, and then we could have another directory for PHP Ugly, which I mean we kind of do anyways through Dropbox, but
We had tried doing that though, and it didn't work out.
the Dropbox.
No, the Keybase thing.
And Keybase stopped running on my system. I still to this day don't know why it won't run.
I was going to say the one thing that Keybase does on my system is it's the first application to crash when I reboot.
Really, I don't think I've ever had any issues with it.
It
just
never
sits,
runs.
just sits there and always runs for me, and I never do anything with it.
There's cool stuff you can do with Keybase. So you can manage different SSH keys through it, and like it acts as a pretty good store for secure stuff if you're not using browser plugin as a store. Like I use LastPass as a store for stuff.
Hmm.
Granted, LastPass is probably going to get hacked before Keybase.
So, to John's point, this Scythe product is supposed to. They're kind of like the first to market to kind of be a replacement for Keybase. I haven't used them. I don't really know what their thing is, but the thing about the whole thing behind Keybase, it was community driven, and there's always a certain. It was open source. It was community driven. There's a good feeling behind it. This I don't think is community driven. I mean, it has a GitHub link here, so maybe it is open source. Yeah, I mean there are open source repos here for it. I don't know anything about this. It does have a pricing structure behind it. There's a free tier, and then there's other tiers where you get. It looks like you get groups and secure notes and sort of things. Um, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not
But
super.
Eric, you need another chat application.
I'm not super interested in getting yet another chat app on my
For
system
for
here.
$18 a month, I think you need it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm kind of chatted out. Everybody who wants to get in touch with me, they know how to get in touch with me. I try to be responsive too. That's the other thing. It's like when somebody hits me in Discord or Twitter or something, or even like one of the Slack channels, I usually try to at least respond and let them know, oh yeah, I got your message.
That's
But I
awfully nice
haven't.
of you.
Oh,
I
the
don't.
free tier has a wait list and
Does it?
and a 2-device limit with limited invites.
Well,
Mm.
that wasn't much of a story. I'm sorry for derailing. You can go back to your Stack Overflow survey now.
No, it's fine.
No, we moved on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then tell me about PHP Insights.
You're killing me, Smalls. I don't even remember what was that?
You've got all this.
PHP Insights.
You've got all these cool stories I want to know more about, and then you let me down.
I throw them on my board and say I have to read this before the show, and then I forget what it is. Oh, this is just.
Have you guys read?
Go ahead.
Have you guys read about AWS's new serverless LAMP stack?
No.
No.
So they are officially, and we've talked about this in the past, that there's unofficial ways of getting stuff to run. They've officially announced their serverless LAMP stack.
Really? So I did have, and I'll throw it in the show notes. I'll do it right now, as a matter of fact. I did have a card on Trello. Let me share with people watching. Oh, I think that's just what you put in there, Thomas. It's the same
Is it the
thing.
same thing?
I just saw the image pop up introducing the. Oh, it's the same image at least.
Oh, so you're
So
linking to
I
the examples. I'm looking at the blog entry that they gave here.
so wait a second. I didn't realize the serverless lamp stack community resource. I didn't realize this was actually an AWS thing.
It
I thought this was
is.
just. I just thought this was a collection of tutorials and stuff on how to get PHP running on AWS Lambda. You're saying this is something more official? Where's your
Yeah,
link at? Let me get your link.
it's the one. It's the same one I just posted in Trello. We both put it.
Freaking everybody's posting this now. Okay.
Can post it again.
Everybody's seen the magic.
In.
Introducing the new serverless lamp stack. Oh, interesting. I didn't realize this was a blessed AWS effort. Hmm. So this is interesting because again, what is the Laravel product that does this for you?
Uh,
Help us out, chat. What's the Laravel product? It's not Forge, not Envoyer.
I like how
Uh,
they switched Apache to
Vapor.
API Gateway.
Vapor. What's that, John?
I like how they switched Apache to API Gateway, Linux to
Uh-huh.
Lambda.
well, they have to do that
And my
because
Well, of course, but
they're getting hit with some super bad news lawsuits.
two.
what do you mean? What's going on?
The open source creators, specifically, I think MongoDB really is going after Amazon for taking the source code, modifying it, and reselling it without distributing the source code changes that they've made, and commercially profiting off of the redistribution of the open source code. AWS is claiming we run the open source code for you. And
Right. They don't distribute it. They're not giving it away.
right. And what a lot of these open source projects are saying is when you spin up an instance for somebody and install our software on it for them, you're distributing it. So
That's
you're
fair.
selling our software and making massive profits off of it.
Well, I don't think that was to the point John was making. This lamp stack. I don't think the reason they did that was to circumvent what you're saying, Thomas.
Oh no.
This is Lambda is their serverless architecture. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but the reason that they're sort of creating more ambiguous names for things is to abstract away that it's at its core they're distributing open source software.
So this is very exciting. This is very exciting. I mean, because if you think about it, this is it. This is PHP getting over that hump of serverless. There's been some. I mean, there was what was the framework? Not Brew. Jesus. What was the framework that was based on the PHP serverless? I forget. And then Vapor came out. Come on, Discord, where you at? Come on, Discord. What's the PHP framework for serverless?
Do our work for us.
I know what you're
He's in
talking
here.
about.
With the lightweight
Okay.
Laravel one? Lumen?
There you go.
Breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was Breath, which was, kind of starting to do those workarounds. Then Taylor Otwell came out with Vapor. So if you're in the Laravel ecosystem, he kind of handled all that for you. but this is really kind of getting over all those dependencies and saying, AWS kind of coming to the community and saying, hey, you really want to run PHP on a serverless architecture? Here, we'll help you with that.
Go for it, stupid.
We're going to charge you twice as much, but we'll make it work for you.
That's the problem, right? That API gateway, I that was my problem with Vapor. Is I used it. I think I used the API gateway, and that thing was just the cost that was out of the world, out of this world. That, and of course, they want you to use when they say MySQL, they want you to use their RDS service, which is great because it's a fully managed database server, but it's also about 4 times as much as spinning up a small instance and running your own database or your own version of MySQL. So, yeah, this is good, man. I see this as a win. I'm like the Hawk, I see this as a win.
Yeah, so they're pushing their Amazon Aurora service, which
Yeah.
that's a brilliant name. Instantly clarifies what it is you're dealing with.
It doesn't confuse you with Microsoft's cloud service at all.
Right. Not at all. Oh man, I don't like. I did ops. Did I not tell the story about my ops nightmare last Friday?
No, I don't
I
think
must
you
No.
not
did.
have, because it happened
Nope.
on Friday.
What happened?
So I pushed out a new feature that depended on a pivot table that used 2 or 3 other tables and had data in the pivot. And it worked great on my development system. And we pushed it out to production, and our CPUs spiked up to 85% on every production server.
85%.
Yeah. And it turns out, my testing with like 20 records didn't compare to what I didn't know was a 9 million record table.
9 million records?
Yeah. So the operations guy, my boss is on a day off. Operations guy contacts him. He contacts me. So now I'm dealing with the operations guy. And fortunately, I've done enough MySQL optimization to keep up and look at the graphs and try to figure out what's going wrong. But it was a 71-second delay to view that new page.
Was that a problem?
Slight problem. I managed to rekey the index after spending my weekend mocking 9 million records locally so that I could verify my tests. And we got it back down to a 430-ish millisecond response time with a new index.
Wow.
But I have pictures of the server loads where it's like response times per page. And you can't tell what the response times are for all the other pages because the graph is all the way expanded out for just the one page. Everything else is 1 pixel wide. So, yeah, when you're developing a new thing, make sure to mock an accurate number of records for your thing.
Well, I have a similar story. Last week, I had code released where I'm like, I optimized this query. There's a advanced search feature that the queries can be horrendously built and not necessarily easy on the database. And then I figured out, oh, if I do, forget what the MySQL command is, but you can count all the rows. Basically, I was doing a count all the rows and then go back and get the subset of rows I needed.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, if you put in the SQL count rows or whatever it is prior, then your second query is just, hey, tell me how many rows there were. And it's So you're now doing that expensive query one time instead of twice. Worked perfectly in dev, put it up, gave it to somebody, they tested in staging, worked fine, put it in production. Nope, not going to work. So where it would say, in their contact manager, it would say, you're looking at 1 through 10 out of 2,000 contacts. It was like 1 to 5 of 5. Like, that's not accurate. They immediately revert the PR,
Oh,
take
you
it
were
out.
paginating it.
Yeah. So that's
So,
why I was doing the call twice. Using MySQL pagination and then doing a full count later on. So it was two queries at the same time. It turns out because they have proxy SQL in production, but I don't have it in development, I didn't see the issue. One query was going off to a replica database, coming back and then asking the primary database, hey, how many rows were there? And the primary was just always saying, oh, there are 5. It's like,
what? The replication was that far out of sync, or what?
no, it's proxy SQL sits between PHP and MySQL. We force advanced search queries to go to a replica server so we don't impact the primary database. So you would go there, and that MySQL instance would do the count and should have it. So when you come back and say, hey, what was that count? It can tell you. Because the first response was your records. If I wanted 1 to 10, it gave me 10 records.
Right.
You make a second call and say, hey, by the way, what was that? How many rows total in that data set? The problem was that second query was going to proxy SQL, and because there wasn't a specific server for it to go to, it was going to the primary server. And the query that happened just before the advanced search was only 5 records. Turns out to solve that, all I needed to do was wrap it in a transaction. Start a transaction, do my call. Proxy SQL can handle that just fine. But I didn't know that and spent way too much time trying to figure out why did this break in production and I can't get it to break here in development.
That's another argument for Dockerizing your everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I really want to do that, but then you also have to make sure that all of your rules, because within proxy SQL, they have rules very clearly stated. If you get this type of query, you're going to go to this set of servers. So now you got to somehow maintain that in some sort of, I don't know, code base or some sort of setup so that your local environment reacts the same way.
I've been looking recently into encrypting .env files. It's something that Travis CI does that I looked into last week.
Really?
Yeah. So you can actually host your env files as long as your deployment script has the secret key. You're good.
So when it ends up on the server, though, it's still unencrypted, right?
Right, but your GitHub can have your secret keys and stuff in it. You don't
It
have
just
to worry.
stops you. You don't have to go to S3 or some other storage mechanism to pull them.
Some hacky storage system. I haven't seen a good example of how to separate your private data away from your code base so that it's secure but easily deployable until this.
We currently do S3. So during deployment, you copy files down from S3, including your env files. So
And can you tell me with 100% certainty that your S3 bucket is not public?
Well, I can tell you it's not public. I can't tell you it's not secure.
Right. I would never host something secure on S3 just because I've seen how many vulnerabilities there are in that.
So we also use Envoyer. That's the Taylor Otwell's Laravel deployment, zero downtime deployment. But see, that doesn't host .env, but what it does do is it allows you to edit the .env through the Envoyer interface, but you need to have a decryption key to do that. which I always thought was kind of interesting, but I was never sure. I guess the purpose behind that is that you can give other administrators access to the deployment, but not give them access to the .env by just not sharing the shared secret with them.
Yeah, and that could be really useful.
Yeah, but my problem with it, and this is why I asked. My problem with it is, if you have an ops person who has access to the server, they still have access to the .env file. So
Well, your ops person has the closest thing to physical access to your servers, anyways. There's nothing you can do about that.
yeah.
That was a point I made to an employer back in 2001, 2002. Didn't trust me whatsoever. I didn't know that at the time. They brought me in and were asking me questions, and I was like, "No, seriously, I have access to this stuff. Like, if I wanted to redirect credit card payments, I could. Like, there was no." So
Right.
I was being honest with them, but at the same time, that made them even more scared. I'm like,
Yeah, lesson learned.
if I was hiding something, I wouldn't be honest with you about it. Like,
Or would you?
I don't know.
I need to take the books away from you.
I always use the disambiguation of somebody. So, like, if they say, "Could you go in and do this?" I would say, "There's no way somebody could go in and do that."
You should,
Could I? Yes, I could.
You should
But
have
there's
said
no way that
he likes
somebody.
the Symfony secret component, which it replaces .env with encrypted secrets that you commit to the repo, but you can only access those secrets with a key. That's very interesting. Before it scrolls off the screen here, Buttery Crumpet also said that as somebody who deals with serverless on a daily basis, just don't. And I've learned not to
it,
question the crumpet.
it it's just a good buzzword. You don't really want to actually do it.
It's a great
He,
buzzword. It's not a mature ecosystem.
Ishu, I'm very interested about this Symphony Secrets. I'm going to look into this because I'm getting more and more paranoid about it, especially now that we have a product we might be releasing that's going to have like Stripe credentials in there, and I really want to make sure that they don't get impacted. So I will be checking. Thanks for the link. I'm gonna check that out. Appreciate that. All right, gentlemen.
Well, real quick, if you want to spend a lot of extra money on hosting a website, go serverless. I'll
Yes.
just leave it there.
Hey,
Instead of
if your goal is
$5 a
spending,
month, you can spend 100 easy.
Easy.
if your goal is spending a lot of extra money, sign up to our Patreon.
Patreon.
Daddy needs a Batman chair.
Yeah, yeah. Thomas sent me a link to a Batman chair in our company Slack, and I forgot we had a couple of Patreons in our company Slack, and I made the joke of, "Hey, what's in our Patreon account?" And one of the people who subscribes to our Patreon replied, "What?" No, he was actually very nice. But check this chair out, man. That is awesome. Look, if you're only listening to the audio podcast, this is why you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel because you can be looking at this very cool Batman chair. Which I
And if
mean,
you're watching us on YouTube, just hit subscribe. It doesn't
we
cost you
literally
anything.
have
We're
more
on once a
shows.
week.
Listen, if you're watching my little scrolling thing here, you'll know that here it is right there, YouTube. We have 139 subscribers. We have a this is episode 197, 198. We've recorded more shows than we have subscribers. I mean, what the hell?
Well, to be fair, we didn't really start YouTube until we were like 180 shows in.
Yeah, that's how late we started YouTubing. Yeah, I have a feel. I'm just gonna make myself a cardboard YouTube button and hang it on my hanging on my wall so I can feel like I'm a real YouTuber. Uh,
Because that's what you get when you get to 100. You get the cardboard one.
yeah, yeah, that's
The
the
card
cardboard.
play button.
Wait,
Uh,
we were thinking our Patreons. Let me go back to the Patreons. Yes, so thank you, Patreons. We do appreciate your support. I mean, it's just
Thank
nice
you.
that you guys are out there. Are you guys, you people, you individuals are out there. We do appreciate it. Okay, I think that's it, gentlemen. That is going to be episode 198 of PHP Ugly. And we're gonna, if you want to stick around for the after show, we're gonna have a little discussion about the next couple of shows coming up. There are some factors that
I'll
are
stick
going into
around
that.
then.
So make sure you stick around. If you're listening to audio podcasts, I'm sorry. Again, you need to subscribe to the YouTube channel to get these extra perks. So, thanks everybody for listening to episode 198. I'm Eric.
I'm John.
I'm Tom.
Keep it
Keep it
ugly.
ugly.
Keep it ugly.
So check it out. Now I get the music playing. I got.
Look what I got.
What do you get? What is that? I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Oh, it's another part of your gun?
Yeah.
You're just buying a gun by pieces, aren't you?
Yeah. This is the
So,
bolt carrier group. It's got the firing pin, the bolt carrier, and the rear gas valve.
Hey, Eric, do you want that other DX Racer chair? The one that was at my desk? I went back to my previous chair.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I would have
It
offered it to Beck, but I guess she's not interested.
Okay. I'll probably end up trying to sell it. It just runs so hot. Like this chair that I'm sitting in,
It
I like.
does. It
It's
does.
cool. Yeah. I didn't like that.
Mine really fell apart.
Your chair?
Yeah.
I'm not shipping a chair to you.
No, I mean I don't want another one. I tell you what, after we do the podcast, I am overheated.
And I can't get the music playing. I set up all this nice music for people who stick around for after party, and I can't get it to pipe in. I'm very disappointed. See, Buttery's coming out of the woodworks now with feedback. This is good for two things: infrequently run backup process, tiny, barely used website.
Back end, not back up.
Oh, back end, yeah. Interesting.
My buddy's office closed down because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So he went over there a couple months ago and grabbed all his old hardware and some stuff that his operations guy said he could take since he wasn't going to be back in for another like 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got this dual 32-inch ultra wide screens now and a Herman Miller Aeron chair.
Yeah, if I'm gonna get another chair, it's gonna be Herman Miller. I've heard way too much good stuff about those.
I know.
I don't even know what a Herman Miller is. What's
They created the Aeron, which was the executives must have it chair for the 1999 .com boom.
Okay. What's that, Herman Miller?
Yeah. So their Embody ergonomic office chair is $1,500.
Oh my God!
I think the Aeron still rings in at like $1,200.
God.
Oh yeah, $1,400.
What are we looking at? We're looking at chairs. I don't even see what.
Top
chairs.
left, office chairs.
Yeah, that one's $1,500.
This top one.
The blue one.
1,500. What makes them so expensive?
They're very, very durable, and they have like 15 points of pivot, and they're very, very comfortable.
Everyone that has one swears by them. Like they're so worth the money you spend. Blah 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 blah.
Really?
It has a 12-year warranty. Could you imagine getting a chair with a 12-year warranty?
I can't imagine it. I just don't know that I would do
weight
it.
capacity. What's the weight capacity of these chairs? That's the important.
I know, it's always the first thing we have to check.
Yeah, that's my big thing, man. I'm not proud of it, but it's the reality of my life.
So Eric brought up the next couple shows. I am out next week.
Right. So
I
we have an option, Thomas. We can record 199 without John, and then we all get together for 200 on schedule, or we just skip next week and push 200 a week
Skip
out.
it. That gives me a chance to work on my surprise for our 200th episode.
You really have a surprise for our 200th episode?
Yeah, I mean it's not like a big thing or anything.
No, it needs to be big now. You've got it worked up in my mind. It's like going to be a big thing. You gonna have Taylor on? You bring Taylor on?
No.
Is Taylor joining us? Yeah, man.
I'm not having another kid. No.
Not yet, anyways.
No.
Hopefully
Snippy,
not.
snippy.
Yeah, I invested a lot of personal attention to that.
No, we're
Wait,
just
what?
going on. We're just getting out of the house. We're going away for a few days, and it happens to be on a Thursday. Sorry.
That's fine.
All right, so we're gonna miss next week. Sounds good.
So, got music playing again. There's music playing, but it's the wrong.
You know what that music reminds me of? That I should be playing Rocket League right now.
Yes.
Rocket League. So somebody posted about how they're removing Mac support for Rocket League. I'm like,
They did that forever ago. They did it months ago.
I was like, I knew we knew about it before it broke, but I'm like, but they already announced that, didn't they? Like,
Hey, do you want? Go and stop Zencaster, by the way.
Thanks.
Oh yeah, stop your locals.
I did that already.
I have not. Thanks.
Yeah, they killed Mac support months ago.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if that had become, if that was already public knowledge or not. And I'm like, God,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was already public knowledge.
But the Pop OS doesn't run on Mac or Linux. Pop OS runs the Windows version, so it still works.
Pop OS still runs the Windows version, so. Or do you play on Linux, Thomas?
I don't.
Oh, fuck. I'll tell you what, man. I have absolutely no. Oh, there we go. There we go. I get that working. Is that too loud for you guys?
They yeah, I was gonna say they don't officially support Linux. I asked our friend there, and they don't.
Yeah, I have no need for another system, and I don't need another computer, and don't imagine I'm going to need another computer in a few years. But I'm like getting really antsy about all the hype around Pop OS now, and I keep looking at the laptops, and I think if they get a laptop that can be charged off USB-C, I don't know. I might skid it just to get it then. Like the laptops they have USB-C on it, but you can't charge with it. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the point then?
Yeah. That's one thing I like about my laptop is the USB-C is the dock and the charger and everything. It's just one plug.
Yeah, I like that. I like that as well. I have to admit, I do like that about USB-C, and I hope it's the last time we have to change that those connections. But
nope.
Yeah, I agree.
It won't.
No, it won't.
It can't be the last time.
All right, I'm gonna go boot up Rocket League.
So,
you guys have
before you do that,
What?
hold on. Before you
What?
do that, Thomas, you and I should work on OBS. I think we should follow up the show with you guys playing Rocket League, unless you're not interested in doing that.
I can't do that because it's a different machine.
Same here.
Yeah,
But it's
John
just
plays on
OBS.
his John plays on his Switch, and I play on my PC in my living room. I'd have to
but it's a PC, right? You can't put
Yeah,
OBS?
but John, you could stream mine, but you couldn't stream John's.
Well, that would be my thing. Is we would stream yours, and you would just kind of post it, and I don't know.
We can look into that during our time off, our week off.
All All right, so everybody
And
listen to the show.
and you could teach, and you could teach Eric how to play.
I know. I gotta get a hold of my. I've lost my Switch. I haven't lost my Switch. I know where my Switch is. I've lost authority over my Switch. It's like my kids. They're still my kids, but they're not children. They're adults. The squatters that live in my house have taken over my Switch, and I can't seem to get possession of it back. So I keep meaning to take it and try to learn Rocket League. So John, you only play it on the Switch, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
So the controls are just work fine for you.
Oh, I actually got a separate controller for it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
and-
know. I
and
got that for you,
John's
dumbass.
been
I'm
practicing.
saying though the
Oh, yeah.
controller works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Okay.
same as an Xbox 360 controller.
And Thomas, do you use a controller or do you use a keyboard?
I use an Xbox One controller.
Oh, interesting. See, I've always been a keyboard guy. I think that's part of my problem. Interesting.
I just don't do keyboard mouse stuff anymore. I'll take some time on my breaks and play Counter-Strike on my Windows machine at my desk.
Mm-hmm.
But my living room is set up to be gamed on via controller.
Hmm.
Like I could give you like a cribs style
How does that-
walkthrough
how-
of just my living room.
How does that work with the wife? Like, my wife would not like it if I were trying to play games in the living room.
It's fine.
What does she do while you're playing games?
Plays on her phone. She plays Facebook a lot.
Mm-mm.
Plays Facebook? What's that mean?
That's endless scrolling.
Yeah, basically. And she has like Candy Crush and stuff like that. But I'm trying to get her converted over to the Switch so she can play some Switch games while I'm playing on the TV. But for the most part, the time of the day is coordinated around, when we're together, we're watching TV together. And when she's asleep, I'll play games and stuff. Or when it's in my lunchtime, I'll play games and stuff. I'm not playing as
Gotcha.
much as I used to.
Gotcha. All right, I'm hanging up.
All right, I'm
Thanks,
stopping the
everybody.
stream. Thank you everybody for
Have a good night,
watching.